Stud Kid is an incredible, inspiring woman. She's out of San Antonio, Texas. She started a festival, music festival, artist festival, the Exposure Explosion Festival. She has a record label. She has a consulting firm. She helps artists come in and help them with their healthcare needs and housing. Just absolutely inspiring young woman. She is in foster care. She started her first business when she was 19, learned a lot from it, started another business shortly after that, learned a lot from that, went into this genre. Now she's surrounded herself with an incredible team, incredibly successful team. She has autism. She has other ailments, but she has just turned everything around, and she's surrounded herself with a team that makes her entire organization successful. Just absolutely inspiring young woman. Uh, you're going to really enjoy this conversation, and just the lessons that she's learned that she talks about here that everybody can learn from. You're really going to like this. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business? And it lasted over 25 years. Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Thanks again for your time. So what is the Exposure Explosion Festival?
So glad you asked. So, Exposure Explosion Festival is basically, I call it the marketing of all marketing. So, we have a 24/7 online interview app, just constant um, interviews, shows, live shows, online meet and greets. Just I call it anything online for marketing. So vendors can showcase their, what they do, their services, their food, how it's made, how it's prepared, how they start planning whatever it is that they do. We also have mobile people who deliver the food, deliver the services
Mm.
for our stuff, like literally. So that's the 24/7 part, all online. And then we have the middle part, which is basically the weekly performances held around the world. So we basically pick a city and a state and a country and we just throw it there.
Wow.
It's basically that's kind of how my team is operating. So we're just like, okay, this week we're gonna be in, Austin, Texas at, wherever. So that's kind of what we do. And then the third part is the yearly tours. And then, of course, you have all the services in between that help an artist for the day to day.
So the actual acts and the artists, their music, their models, let's talk about them a little bit, please.
Yes, definitely. So basically, we work with all different types of genres. So we don't have a favorite genre. So we kind of coordinate based off of obviously what's going on in that city and state, country, what's most preferred,
Mm.
because, different states are different things. And then we kind of host acts catered to that. Um, as far as the models, Exposure Explosion would be nothing without the models. So the models help obviously the brand exposure. We also help models get on their feet. So our modeling directors, of course, would help choreograph some type of runway slash learning how to brand, sell, market while wearing the uniform, the whole 9 yards, professional photos. So literally, it is the whole 9 yards of marketing.
Incredible. And but your background is you own a record label, you own a consulting company. So you actually have artists, and you've done something extraordinary where you saw a need for a lot of healthcare and other bills and needs that the artist couldn't afford or couldn't maintain, and you provide for them. It's incredible.
Yes, thank you. So, doing this line of work, you start learning 99% of artists have personal life issues.
Mm.
Either they're about to get evicted, they're already evicted, or they're already homeless, living place to place or on the street. They're talented, they're hungry for it, they just don't have the means to do it. They work a job, so they really can't commit to their craft, but their job pays for the craft, so they really just need inner, like, focused personal life support so that they can get there. So Exposure Explosion and DRH Consulting's focus, the DRH consulting part is to make sure their entire personal life is stable, and then Exposure Explosion, obviously in the name, to give them that exposure and that explosion of support and care.
We always hear kind of the mantra of starving artists. They're very good at their art, but they're not good in business, or they kind of lose focus in other places. Do you think that's the case? You think it's generally true?
I think it is mostly, no, I think it's more about their stability.
Mm.
I think stability is a big factor. I think right now there's nothing catering to their mental health, their personal health, their mindset, their growth, their decisions. A lot of these artists have kids, families. No one's looking at that.
Mm.
You know what I mean? The difference between being signed to a record label or even doing music in general is that there's no benefits. There's no healthcare benefits. There's no nothing. There's no time off. There's no vacation.
Right.
You can't just log into a portal and say I need this day through this day. It's so demanding, but there's no benefits for meeting those demands. And that's what we're trying to change, making sure that there's benefits for the demand, really creating it as a career and a job, so that when artists do this job slash career, it is something that they can hold on to long term.
I mean, it sounds so extraordinary, but at the same time, it seems so necessary. Are other firms doing this, Dudikid, or are you the only one? I would hope others are.
So no, I am the only one doing this.
Wow.
So, and that's what's creating like this huge, I wouldn't say buzz, excitement, because everybody's like, oh my God, this exists. Where, when, why? Like, how? So, yes, definitely.
Incredible. So an artist finds you. Now you're based out of San Antonio, Texas. I understand. And
Yes.
an artist finds you either virtually or physically. They're in your area. How do you onboard them? How do you find out what they need? How, do you evaluate their talent? How is that process?
Perfect question. So we call it the, since we're already doing something new, we might as well continue motto.
Mhm.
So we have basically, everyone's familiar with the health and human services style, which is you basically submit an online
Mm.
application, and then everything comes to you via email and or mail, telling you what you qualify and deny for, basically. So we have that process. We have the, I already know what I want and need, so I just need to go to that department individually. And then we also have the art of subscription base.
Mm.
So I really, I know what I need, but then I don't. I just want to get a subscription that kind of helps me cover all bases just in case. So literally we have all three methods for artists, because you never know where someone's at currently.
And is it primarily music? Is it painters? Is it sculptors? Is it primarily music you work with?
Perfect question. So we deal with all different types. So we are focused on, so for those, we would call those more in the vendor side.
Uh,
So we work with everyone, but it is heavily about music and entertainment. So tattoo artists are a
mm.
big one, models are a big one. So, but we do work with all different businesses and vendors. So we would just consider those in the vendor side, but the services are for everyone.
So you bring somebody on board, and generally they're going to be signed. You bring them on into your process, onto your platform. Will they all be signed to the record label as well? Will they get a deal?
No.
Okay.
No, so the record label is completely different.
Hmm.
It really, what we try to tell people, exposure, explosion, and DRH consulting are simply about services. So you, once you onboard into the company, we're going to sit down with you. One of our A&Rs will sit down and they will go over whatever you qualify for service wise, not to be confused with signing a record deal. So a record deal is more private. We're, those are obviously more selected. We kind of handpick those people who are ready, kind of filter out. But we do have boot camps that are designed like a record label to help build an artist from start to finish, establish them, etc.
Hmm. Is the record industry fair to artists?
Straight out, just blunt, no. Like
Has it ever been?
there is no, it's not. And that's the key. And that's something that we also try to teach artists. There is a time and a place to go to a record label, and there's also a time and a place when not to.
Hmm.
So a record label is good when you have enough, I call it, you have enough base in promotion and marketing as an artist, and you need to level that out, and you are able, because I tell people a record label is a loan.
Hmm.
Okay, so when you go to a record label, you are basically signing a personal loan for your career, and you're saying, I need you to invest in my career because I have this much. So whatever you've done, think of it like your credit score. So I've done this much and my credit score is worth this. If you can give me this loan, I can prove to you I'm valued enough and I can give you your money back. A lot of times, artists don't look at it that way. They look at it like, if I sign with this record deal, their job, we're going to, if you eat, I eat, we eat.
Hmm.
That's not the way that it works. So record labels are loan companies.
Hmm.
Okay. We loan you everything you need to grow. And then at that point, we then say, okay, it's time for you to pay us back. Now you surpassed your time. So now we're adding interest rates because maybe something didn't happen quite like you thought it would, or maybe something surpassed what we thought. And we're like, hey, we loaned you this money to do that. So now you have a little bit more that you have to pay back. That's how we kind of look at it. So we kind of teach artists that when to jump and when not to.
So the record label's pretty much a bank.
Exactly that.
Hmm. And then you hear examples of like Chance, the rapper, who is he didn't have does still I believe does not have a record label, and he's been so successful. So there are some success stories, but are they far and few between?
Very much so. So a lot of times it's who you know.
Hmm.
And that's the key. And then you have to be careful because then it's who they know. So a lot of artists, they think, oh, if I have a hit song, I put it out, I'm going to be famous. That's not the case. You have to look at trademarks, copyrights. It's the in betweens that get you. And a lot of artists don't recognize that it's the in betweens. It's not about getting rich and famous. Half the time you can put out a hit song. The problem is, do you own that song that became a hit? Do you own the beat completely? Do you own the words completely? Is it out on major distribution, or do you owe the distribution company that you're putting the music out through? Do you have a deal with the producers, the all those different things, not to mention the marketing part. A lot of artists who are famous, who are independent, a lot of them have been marketing that same song for
Hmm.
years. So it's not like they just went into the studio last week, put the song out, and it became a hit.
Wow.
A lot of times these are songs that have been 3 and 4 and 5 years down the line, and they're still performing those songs because the goal is to get that song known. And then a lot of artists, of course, they have 1,000 albums and only 20 listeners.
Incredible. And you mentioned masters. So it's like, is it important for the artist to own their own master recording?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. So it depends. It depends on your credit score with the music industry. So and this is again a major lesson artists have to learn. So the bigger thing is, What is your credit score in the music industry? What is your credit score? Do you have Are you known already? Are you not? Did the record label get you known, or were you already known when the record label took you on? Example, did the record label give you writers? Because you don't need masters to something you didn't even write.
Mm.
So, did you produce the song? Did you pay for the beat? If you didn't, you don't need the masters to that. But see, artists, things get blurred as the higher you get, because you start forgetting all the pieces that are connected to create that master. So if the artist produced the song, bought the beat, did everything themselves, and it became a hit, then yes, I definitely agree they deserve the masters. If the record label themselves found someone to write the song, they purchased the beat, they marketed themselves, they put it all together to create that bundle, then no. I think artists should just, accept the royalties, let the master stay with the label, because at the end of the day, it affects your credit score as an artist.
Interesting. You keep on bringing this credit score up. So let's say, somebody very famous, Drake is, at the highest level, and I don't know, Dr. X, I just made up, who's just not well known. I'm probably a great artist, is probably at the bottom. So that you're talking about a ranking there of kind of popularity and song sales.
Yes. So, credit score is, so I call credit score with music registered in three different levels. So the first one is what you own.
Hmm.
So that's the big part. Artists hardly any of indie artists, which is also known as independent artists, hardly ever own their beats.
Really?
They're using someone's beat and they're just adding their own words. That is a number one issue of why independent artists do not get famous, known, and record labels do not sign them. They do not own what it is that they're using.
Wow.
So there's that. Number two, and that affects your credit score as an artist if you don't own. Also, did you trademark, copyright? Did you get your own? Are you using your own? Um, UPC codes? Are you using your own metadata? If you're using the labels, that's another reason why you will never get the money that you're supposed to receive or own the master. So that also affects your credit score. And then, of course, you
I
go into the
see.
marketing, the branding.
So I'm a little bit older than you, but one of my favorite albums is De La Soul, their first album, and that's got so many cuts and so much borrowed that wasn't paid for. Like Spotify will never put that album up because they don't own the rights, and they. So is this strictly a hip hop issue? Because how about other artists that play all their own instruments and don't incorporate other beats? Is it still an issue there?
Yes. So artists don't realize you're supposed to send the instrumental in to still be, so it's called packs. You're supposed to break it down like snare drum 3 times. It's all the way down to writing the music.
Wow,
So if you're not buying it, then you should be writing it and translating it into an actual music note and putting it on paper so that it can be registered and all of that. Artists don't recognize that, and these are the little things that labels do to make those billions and own the masters.
fascinating. I didn't realize that. Should there be a union for musicians?
No, completely against it, because unions are structured to be ran corporate, and corporate can be a really dangerous thing for artists that cannot meet corporate America. So
Hmm.
corporate is means you're following our process. So I definitely do not believe in unions. I think it should stay more where we focus on, like I said, what I'm doing right now, focusing on the benefits, creating it to be more structured like a real career, letting it be looked at with banks and other companies like a job, so that artists can focus solely on their craft.
Hmm. Is streaming fair to artists?
Streaming is not. So there's a big pool of money that all the music goes into. Spotify, Apple, etc. will look at that pool and say, okay, how can we give Meek Mill, Drake, Rick Ross, all of them the most money? And then the indie artists get strands of what's left, and then the record labels take, of course, the bigger pie, which I call them at the bottom, because there's already a pre-deal set for famous artists. So at the very very bottom are record labels, but they get the most in the pot.
I mean, last I heard, it was like 0.0002 cents per stream. you've got to sell 1,000, or they've got to, excuse me, stream 1,000 just to make a penny. And there was some movement to actually go to a penny per stream. I guess iTunes was in favor of it, but some others weren't. I mean, that's just absolutely crazy. It's terrible.
Correct. And then you can be a Nicki Minaj and, only have 100,000 streams and come
Uh,
home with, you know, six figures just about.
right. That was really unfortunate. Now, I know Spotify recently added something where you can actually donate and it goes right to the indie performer 100%. That's a nice little venture.
So I have to disagree
Hmm.
because it's another form of pay to play.
Ah,
So I don't believe artists should be charged to do their job. And that's kind of what it is. It's like, okay, you're asking, so let's look at it from the consumer side. You're already paying Spotify to get unlimited
yeah.
music, and all of that. Then now you have to pay all the indie artists because now
Huh.
you feel bad and guilty because they have a button. But then you can listen to Drake. It's another form of basically pushing down the little artist and giving the big artist most of the profit and pie.
Wow.
So you're going to choose Drake because he doesn't have a little button that says donate to him. So you're going to listen to him because he doesn't make you feel bad. So he's getting 1,000 streams just off of that. When I call it, let's say Little Ray. Little Ray's a rapper, but he has that button. So now he looks like he's begging. His picture quality isn't the best. He's not even in any of the spins. So you got to actually know him, search for his name. It's just a lot of work. It's just another suppression.
So for the next, minute, I put you in charge of all the streaming services. What are you going to do?
So, first of all, great question. First of all, I would swipe out I would swipe away categorizing by who's famous and who's not.
Hmm.
I would, of course, put everyone in a genre. I would erase the playlist idea. Playlist ideas can be tricky, and you have to know who to search for in order to put someone in a playlist. That can be a trick. Again, another suppression. So I would erase that idea. What I would do instead is I would categorize by who sounds like what. So if you have artists who sound like Drake, and then you have Drake. So all the artists that sound like Drake need to go in his category. All the artists who sound like 3 Days Grace, that put them all in that category because it's going to create that feel. So I would more pay attention to the type of music someone is interested in, put those artists in those category, and go from there.
Now there are some other streaming services that are a bit more fair. Like, is it called GarageBand? No. Is there a streaming service that's a bit more fair? It's not Spotify or iTunes. Are you familiar with this? Uh,
I am not currently,
what it's called?
because GarageBand. So because GarageBand, I think is more just of a serve. I mean, they may have distribution now. I'm not sure on that one.
Hmm. But you would make those changes to the iTunes and Spotify, I believe, are the biggest, and I guess Amazon's kind of coming in. But those were the changes that you would make there.
Correct. Correct.
I get to talk to some artists. I'm very fortunate, and when I was told that it was 0.0002 per stream, uh, they said, "Well, we would like to make more money, but we don't want to have to, have the consumer pay more." So Apple is a trillion
Exactly.
dollar company. They have plenty of money.
Right. Right. But that's why record labels can be a good thing, just like a bank.
Hmm.
I'll tell you now, I'm not always the greatest with wanting to use a bank or put my money in there because as soon as you do, of course, it's no longer your money
Right.
100%. So technically, but at the end of the day, having a bank can be a good thing. It's good for proving your value. I believe the same is true for artists. I think artists still need record labels. And I still think even getting rid of record labels won't fix the issue. Now, I think there should be record labels that are more focused on artist development rather than actually getting, keeping an artist on a deal just to stay trapped. I do think artist development is a big one. And that's why we have a bunch of record labels. And what we do is we section them off based off of need. These few labels are just for artist development. These labels are focused on marketing. These labels are focused on actual building of streams and fame. And then we hand them off to the major labels at this point because now you're ready for mainstream. So I think you still need a record label because only record labels can tap into that pool.
Now, the streaming services would say, well, you would never, the consumer would never find these artists. We're here and we're actually, you can find them. You may have to dig a little deeper, but, and so they should be happy with the money that we are getting them. I mean, is that a fair statement for them to make?
If you're independent, I can see where they get it from
Mm,
because again, there's so it's very saturated.
mm.
So like I said, it's so saturated, then you do need a label. You need a label because labels are the only ones who will ever have the tools to really place an artist to be heard, to get seen, to have that connection in that growth.
Absolutely fascinating. I don't, are you optimistic that it'll get better for the labels and for the artist?
Honestly,
Boy, that
I'm
answer, your
optimistic
answer's,
that my company will make a difference.
oh boy. Yeah, very good. That's right.
I'm more optimistic on, those that we help out.
Mm.
So I can't speak the same for other, labels, companies, etc.
Yeah, so you're being the change. I applaud you for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, I'll talk about you a little bit. You fascinate me. You were in a foster home till you were 19, correct?
Yes. So okay. So I started off in so I lived with my I lived with my birth parents. We're just gonna, live with my birth parents for a little bit. They were really abusive. So then I got placed in child protective services after many schools kept calling CPS and saying, hey, look, she's being abused, hurt, she's not eating, or whatever. When I got placed in child protective services, when you age, as you age, they start putting you in adult protective services. Then I was diagnosed with autism, other disabilities, and stuff like that. So then they moved me into adult protective services. And then I was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, everything else. They were like, well, she can never live on her
Mm.
own. So then I got adopted. I got adopted as an adult. So, and then that adoption didn't work. The family just kind of left me in the wind. And then I just got readopted, literally.
Wow. Were you falsely diagnosed with autism and those other items? Did you later find?
No, so I do have autism
You're on the
heavily.
spectrum. I see. Very good.
Yes.
Well, you're making great eye contact and uh yeah, but you've done so much. And then you created your first business when you were 19.
Yes. Yes. So I, when you're in foster care, I always tell people when you're in foster care, no one tells you you can't.
Mm.
So and I call myself lucky. You know what I mean? So no one tells you you can't. I mean, I have family now. I kind of lost my way for a little bit, but then the family I have now was like, hey, they're the same. No one tells me I can't. So if you grow up with that's not realistic, you can't do that. So foster care was really a blessing and a curse for me. It was a blessing because no one told me I couldn't become an astronaut, be a rapper, and also build three businesses.
Mm.
But then, then you have the, well, maybe I shouldn't be a rapper in NASA while building businesses. So you start, learning how to prioritize. But at the end of the day, yes, definitely.
So you picked one, and so you yourself are an artist.
So okay, that could go. I'm not an artist. What I did, so this is where the misconception comes in. I am not an artist. I do write music. I can produce music. I can create the beats. I have sold many, many songs. I have written many, many songs. I have produced many things, but I don't consider myself a musician because I'm not actively in the field within 20%.
Hmm.
So I always say you're not really considered a musician if you don't do it 20%. I don't have a song out. I do, however, have an instrumental out, but that is just more just a soundtrack to one of the commercials that I did.
So where was the leap where you decided to? Tell me about your business that you started at 19.
So it was called Straight Defined Community. And it was where I was like, I'm going to create this community for people who are low income, because obviously in CPS, you're way below low income at this point. And I'm like, we're going to start this business and I'm going to help everybody who's ever hit a situation like me. And then I put a job out on Indeed and I just put like 500 jobs out and got like a bunch of people who ended up applying. And I told them all during the interview, so look, I don't have no money. You're looking for a job. We're going to come together and we're going to build this business. And in 2 weeks, we're going to get paychecks. You know what? Let's just say 3 weeks because, again, we're going to say we're in the hole. Everybody was like, let's do it.
Wow.
3 weeks came around. We didn't make no money. So I was like, and then, it turned into a lot of commotion. And I realized, because I was trying to be honest, I was like, look, I have nothing, but this is a dream I have. Realized that wasn't the best way to go about it. Obviously, after 3 weeks, everybody was mad. So, but I did get told by one of the guys who helped. He's like, look, you're going to make it. It's just going to take a minute, but you're there. I decided to step back and I learned everybody cannot be a focus. I think that was my big mistake
Hmm.
when I was younger. I wanted to help everybody. And I learned you have to have a focus, a vision, a focus. And I realized then entertainment is my passion, my heart, my life. I'm good at it. I love it. That's what I did first. I used to rap all the time to help out with what I'm feeling. I wrote songs. I've met a bunch of famous people. So, with that being said, maybe I should angle my focus there. You know, Once we started angling my focus there, we did great.
Wow. So you started focusing, and then these people that you kind of brought on, I'm sure some of them left. Are any of those originals still with you?
Oh no.
No, they
No.
moved on. Yeah,
Not from that. No.
yeah, that was a while
A
ago.
lot of time in between. Yeah, a lot of
It's
time.
about 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that happened. Correct.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and so then the next step is what, after making that corporation, and you learned a lot, you failed, but you failed quick, you turned it around, you got focused. What was the next industry?
So after that, then I was like, okay, all right, entertainment's a big piece, but before I learn this lesson 100%, I have to make another mistake. I'm going to now go into the field of, mental health. Why? I have autism. I want to be able to help people that have autism, but I also want to be able to help people that have disabilities, other health issues, because I have major health issues. I use a wheelchair. I have diabetes. I can't feel my feet. So eventually they're saying they could eventually get cut off. So I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to make this company called um, In Between Living Rehabilitation Center. I talked to my first foster mother about it. My adopted mother about it. My first one, the one she's not around no more. She was like, "Let's do it. Let's make it a nonprofit. Let's build this business. I'm gonna be there every step of the way." I believed her. I did it. She walked away. She let me down. I lost everything. And at that point, that's when I learned that not everybody says what they mean, because during that time I trusted everything everyone
Hmm.
said. So that's when I learned my second lesson. Not to be so trusting, learn to have some healthy boundaries, and do not jump if you feel
Hmm.
uncomfortable. So, because every step of the way I was uncomfortable, everything was in her name except the business itself. So, like, we started up a housing for people with disabilities. and ended up partnering with veteran services and stuff like that. She walked away. She took the house. The clients went homeless. I was putting clients in my house at the time. She let me out and left me all in the dirt. Her husband was swinging at me. So literally, it turned into this conglomerate of mess. And by the time I knew, the clients were calling adult protective services on me because obviously the business is in my name. I'm sitting out there trying to put them in my home. I lost my place, and then it just became a big old confusion. So I learned like a lot of boundaries and a lot of protection, how to do things the right way, how to put things in my name. And then that final leap of faith came when I slowed down. I said, okay, what did I do wrong in all of these areas? And so then I started realizing, first of all, getting into a field I'm comfortable with, which was entertainment. I was blessed to never be sued or anything else like that. I was blessed, just a lot of complaints and more like, hey, you got to do better next time. And then what I did was flip every lesson into my business now. And following all those guidelines, I became what I became today. So, stud the kid, entertainment focused, which is something I'm comfortable with. Everything that I have is in my name, so I'm super happy with it. I haven't lost anything. We have an office. We have so just stability, legitimacy, and just I'm more in control and in direction of where we go.
Absolutely inspiring. Absolutely inspiring. How important is it that your firm is not only black owned but women run?
So I'm more focused on women ran rather than black owned, but it just happens to be black owned. um, I think women are great at
Mm.
detail, men are good at placement.
Hmm.
So women are super detailed focused. Women do excellent with looking at the little things. And that is where I fail, awkwardly
Hmm.
enough. So I honestly fail at looking at the little details. And so by having a powerhouse of women, well, I catch every detail before. So I that's why I've been able to make it to where I've made it to, because literally 99% out of my entire company, I only have one male
Wow.
as an employee wise. So only one male. All of them are women. So, but as my mentors, I have all males.
Right.
So it's crazy.
Interesting. Interesting. And
Yep.
I was listening to an interview you did, and you said kind of when you were developing your team, your management team, that you made some mistakes in bringing some friends on and start, and they really shouldn't have been moved into the business area, just stayed as friends, and you kind of learned the hard way there. Difficult lesson to learn.
Oh my. Yes, I had a habit. So my thing has always been, if you have a business, bring your family on so they don't have to work
Right.
too. I went to this gas station, and obviously they weren't white or black. So I'm just gonna say that on the record, and I was like, how do you have your kids, your mom, your grandma, everyone's working like, oh yeah, we believe in family. I believe in that too. So my thing was, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to bring all my family and friends, and we're just going to run this successful powerhouse, and it's going to be nothing but family. Yeah, it's not that. It's not like that. So I I learned that can come as a consequence, but I also learned that it does work, but it depends on the type of family. And one of the
Mm.
lessons I learned, someone has to submit, but also you got to have people that see your same vision, because I made that mistake. So before, so I was just bringing everyone on. I was like, hey TJ, your cousin, come on, let's go, let's build this business. We're all gonna become rich together. Think about
It's a hard lesson to learn. I started, my tech business in the '90s, and yeah, I brought some people on that were friends, and certain assumptions are being made, and then you end up not being friends, and it can be very difficult. But I know some business owners that have great friends that are their employees, and it works out well. So I guess it just depends on each person.
Yes, definitely. So, funny flip side, um, The team I have now, some of them connect in that realm now, in that family realm,
Mm.
and they couldn't be better.
Hmm.
So, and great. But again, so there is a part of submitting that certain people have to do in this line of work. So anytime you run a business, you have the main head that is the voice, and then you have a bunch of people that need to submit to the next person. A lot of times why family doesn't work is because people are not willing to submit. And
Mm.
that's the key. I use that word because it's kind of like marriage. And you have to learn, if you can't make the marriage work, this is not going to work. And so a lot of times I try to tell people, when they want to open up businesses and they say they want it to be family ran, you think it's bad. Imagine your manager being your mom.
Mm.
So not only are you submitting, as a child, but now you're submitting and, okay, you might be right. But then there's a flip side when your mom can, also learn to submit to you on certain things and say, you know what? I don't know about this part. This is you. I'm gonna just go with you. But also that wisdom and that connection, coming together to just grow.
I know recently, I think, I'm pretty sure Snoop Dogg said that his wife became his manager. He announced that maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And, everybody questioned that. How are you going to do that with that relationship? It's never going to leave the house. And he had some, in his way of, he's very funny and very charming. And he just said, she's already there anyway. Why don't you just come on? And it was very,
Right.
you know, um, at this point, I usually talk to people. So I lost a lot of weight and I had some challenges. And people ask me, how do you do it? And how did you do it? And I always say discipline. I just, like you said, you focused at one particular point and went forward. Do you consider yourself a disciplined person? Do you exercise self discipline often?
So not at all. Okay. So I am the most, like, okay, my mom is disciplined.
Hmm.
She is my lifeline now. Okay. My mom is the person who organizes the meetings. Like I said, like she is my, now she balances me out and she allows me to be disciplined.
Mm.
So she gives me the tools. Some of that comes with autism. So I will tell you, I have really, really bad anxiety and I panic. I have these like anxiety moments before anything. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to have to go talk to somebody. I don't even know the people. What's going to happen? And she's really good at like bringing me back zen, taking that moment, and just bringing me back. She is literally my lifeline. So literally, she helps me out with everything. So I think if you're not disciplined, you need to definitely get you someone disciplined.
Mm. Mm.
But I am definitely learning to be disciplined in certain areas. Now I'm better disciplined in this genre, in this
Mm.
focus. So again, there goes that submitting part. My mom will let me decide on the business growth and how it should go, but I know she's better disciplined on, the money, how it should be spent, where it should go, where it needs to come from, etc. The people on the team, like I said, I'm super nice. I believe everybody should have a chance. My mom focuses more on credentials, what they can actually bring. So again, just being able to know your place. But yes, discipline is heavily needed, whether it's you or someone else on the team. You definitely need discipline.
I mean, for you to come out of foster care, to start a business at 19, to do that on LinkedIn, to get those people saw something in you, and you rallied them together, and then you had this second business, and you learned, and now you have a festival, you have a label, you have this consulting firm. It just breeds discipline to me. But you're kind of saying, I think that I have some, and the team has the other.
Yes, yes, definitely what I'm saying. So I definitely have some, but my team is my lifeline. They have the right balance I need. It's like a yin and a
Mm.
yang. So
And I think that's all of us. I think we're disciplined in things that we're good at and we care about, and undisciplined in others. I'm a terrible speller. I do, I don't thank and show people how much I care for them enough. I believe, where I fall short in a lot of areas, but I am strongly disciplined in others. So when running let's just talk about the consulting side. When you're running that, how much of what you do is art versus science in your mind?
I think 85% is truly science.
Mm.
So I really think it is. It's a balancing act. I think it's really about science. So definitely.
You have specific ways of doing things. You have, this is the way we handle this. This is the way we do this. Is it the same thing with the record label and with the festival?
So those are true, yeah, science, because no matter which way you look at it, science plays a big part. So science and math.
Hmm.
So that, I fell in math, so that's where my mom comes in, and she is also my manager, so she handles the math side of things. But then I am great in the other parts of science, so I can tell you the direction we need to go in and why.
Hmm.
She can tell me why and how something should cost, where it should come from, how it should connect, and then we come together and we connect the whole vision.
Are you going to write a book? I hope.
Yes, so that's a good idea. I really should write a book.
I mean, just take the notes
I
from our
really should.
conversation. You've got so much, great advice that people can be learning from. And you've got so much to say and so much to share. And you're doing that with your vision, with your organizations. But, perhaps in a book, I see somebody coming to you and organizing that. Just my own opinion. Thank you so much for your time today. Absolutely inspiring.
You're welcome.
So tell us how we can get in touch with you, how we can go to your festival, please.
Yes. So our website was getting worked on, but the website will be back up today, funny enough. So people can check out studthekid.com. For Exposure Explosion, you can also follow that same website, studthekid.com, to check out Exposure Explosion Festival as well. Exposure Explosion Festival will also have its own website, but that will be aired everywhere once that time comes. For right now though, studthekid.com is where you can find me and or anything about the companies. And then we also are developing an app right now where it's called DRH Consulting Contact Me. And so you can download that app in the coming weeks. Text us directly and we text you right back directly. So
Incredible. And
multiple ways.
spelled STUDD, then DA,
Correct.
and then KIDD.
Correct.
So make sure
Correct.
everybody goes there. And again, you are on Instagram. You've got a great Instagram site, even Twitter. I've seen all your posts, and Facebook. You have a Facebook site, and then of course the festival has their own Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well.
Correct.
Thank you so much. It was an
Correct.
absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it, and I know people listening or watching will do as well. I wish you success, and I hope one day we get to meet.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you so much for bringing me out.
You be well. Have a great day. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.